Right, students, welcome. CIA orientation session. Right. Today we're going to discuss about the program and how it's going to work because you know that CIA module get changed. There are a lot of changes happen for 2025. So we're going to discuss all those things. First of all, I'll explain what is CIA first. Right. Because if you take internal audit and external audit, right, it's very important to understand the concepts why we need a qualification as internal auditors, because when we are talking about the qualification audit profession, it gives some kind of a confidence to different stakeholders, right? Simple. For example, let's take like this. Why audit matter? Why audit matter? if you take here if you take here the concept, if you take here the concept audit, most commonly we see external audit and internal audit. What is audit? It's an independent verification. It's an independent verification. So when we teach external audit and internal audit as a comparable factors, right, we always say external audit is more independent, internal audit is less independent. But technically, why we need guidelines, why we need a qualification over internal audit profession, it's very important. Reason, external audit is regulated very well. Internal audit, we need regulations. What is mean by regulation? When we regulated the profession, when we regulated the qualification, that gave confidence. That give confidence. First of all, let's make like this. Shareholders in a company, those are the people who invested in the business, that we call owners, or else we call principals. And these people invest in the business. These people invest in the business, right? So there are different types of businesses. I can say organization. This organization can be a private company. This organization can be a listed company, right? This organization can be like any type of organization. But when it comes to organization like a PLC, the organization's governance matter. Organization governance matter. You can't run a listed company, you can't run a listed organization like a sole trader. For that, we need governance. What is governance? The way that company direct and control. The way company direct and the way the company is controlled. One aspect is governance. One aspect is governance. Who govern this business? Agents. That is, we call management. So principal and the management is agents. I can say management, board of directors. These managements are agents. These management are agents. Students, try to understand one thing. This management need certain qualities. That is, we call ethics. So second main aspect is ethics. So the governance need, ethics needs, third parties controls. These three dilemmas matters for an organization. After this only, preparation of financial statements. So financial statement is come as an output of this particular process, of this particular mechanism. And these financial statements are verified by external auditor. These financial statements are verified by external auditor, that you might study under external audit some other qualifications. But try to understand one thing. In order to make sure this area clear, an organization in terms of governance, in terms of managerial behavior, in terms of controls, if an organization is strong enough, if the organization is regulated, then principal agent conflict is resolved. That particular point where that organization add value to different stakeholders. So technically, if I take CA, if I take ACCA, if I take CIMA or whatever, it's focus here. But CIA, internal auditor, we going to focus this arrangement. Because always students ask, sir, I should choose external audit firms or internal audit? I should choose external audits or internal audit. My question, always, if you want to be an accountant, choose external audit. External audit is a functional specialization. External audit is a functional specialization. I can say like, you can become an expert through functional area. That functional area is financial statement. But students, when it comes to internal audit, it is not just functional specialization. I can say it's a cross-functional specialization. If you want to be a CEO, be an internal auditor. Why? Because internal audit scope is not limited to financial statement. Internal audit covers the governance. Internal audit covers controls. Internal audit covers management. So internal audit scope is very broad. It is not narrow. Internal audit focus cross-functional, not functional. So why CIA matters? CIA regulate this internal audit function. Normally, when I compare internal audit with external audit is already well regulated. If you take India, Indian account auditing standards, international ISA, international standards on auditing, it is regulated. You can't do external audit according to your own way because it is clearly regulated. When it comes to CIA, when it comes to internal audit is not fully regulated earlier. Now, these type of professional platforms provide guidelines, develop competency to professionals who works at internal audit division. It creates that competency. It creates that regulation. It regulates the framework. That helps us to manage the businesses. Actually, why internal audit is valid? Why we need internal audit? Internal audit create value. Internal audit ensure operational efficiency. Therefore, students, we try to focus to different areas. External audit, it's a subject matter is financial statement. Internal audit, the subject matter is more broader. Internal audit is a subject matter more broader. So don't think internal audit is a part of external audit. It is wrong. Internal audit is separate, different. External audit is different. Is that clear? So technically, if you look at this qualification, it's our duty to prepare more competent internal auditors. more qualified regulated internal auditors who ensure the governance structure become more strong, more effective. By that it create value to different stakeholders. By that it's create value to different stakeholders. Right? So CIA, if you take, it's an internal auditor but certified. Internal auditor but certified. There is a profile. So through this CIA course, I'm going to train you, I'm going to enrich you, I'm going to regulate you in a way that you're going to add value to organization. So it is not an external verification, it's a part of organization process. It's a part of organization process. Whatever the changes that we expected to do to the organizational management, that we can't do from the external side. Right? It should be an ongoing process. That's what we're going to do. Is that clear? Now you all understood why we need internal audit regulated, why we need qualifications over internal audit. And always I'm telling, you can be a CA, you can be an ACCA, but focus on CIA also. Why? You get cross-functional knowledge. Because if I take internal audit students, if I take internal audit, concentrate. Internal audit plays a crucial role for all three levels of management. For all three levels of management. You all know there are three levels when it comes to this governance management. Right? One is operational level. One is operational level. Two is tactical level. Three is strategic level. So technically students, external audit is functionally specialized. Here HR, marketing, risk, finance, IT. Likewise, this arrangement is functionally divided. If you look at external audit, it's here. It's here. But you look at internal audit, it's here. That's why I'm telling, internal audit qualification is a cross-functional, multifunctional. It helps us to learn the systems. It helps us to learn the process. It helps us to learn the functions. It's very important. So through this course, we are trying to build that for you. What is CIA? If you look at this module, if you look at this particular qualification, part 1, part 2, part 3. It has 3 different parts. Once you complete everything, you get CIA certification. A professional body like CA, ACCA. This particular module have 3 levels that we call CIA Part 1, CIA Part 2, CIA Part 3. CIA Part 1, CIA Part 2, CIA Part 3. Earlier syllabus and the new syllabus 2025, there is a change in the name also. Part 1, earlier syllabus known as Essential, earlier syllabus 2019, Essential of Internal Auditing. Essential of Internal Auditing. earlier syllabus. But the new syllabus, internal audit fundamental. Internal audit fundamentals. So previous syllabus, essential of internal audit, now they renamed it as internal audit fundamental. I'll discuss this in detail, the new modules in detail in a way. Part 2, if you take earlier, it is known as practice of internal auditing. Practice of internal auditing, old one. Now it is internal audit engagement. Internal audit engagement. New syllabus. That is what we're going to discuss. Part 3, if you take earlier, it is business knowledge, and earlier syllabus, business knowledge of internal auditing. Business knowledge of internal auditing. But now 2025, the revised syllabus, it is renamed as internal audit function. Internal audit. Technically, students, the basic we're going to discuss in level 1, part 1. It's an engagement after that. I'll teach you these things in detail later. Finally, like HR, like marketing, like finance, for an organization, internal audit is also a function. Like HR, like marketing, like finance, internal audit is also a function. It's a function. Actually, what it do for HR department, HR function, we plan HR, we manage human resources. Under finance, we plan, we prepare financial statement, financial functions. And what internal audit function do? Technically, internal audit function, operational efficiency. Operational efficiency. It's focused on operational efficiency. So the new syllabus, there is a change in the name also. So when you are taking internet materials, make sure this change is incorporated, because there are a lot of materials, free materials available. Make sure it is in line with the updated syllabus form. So what is this updated area of the syllabus? Level 1 is renamed as internal audit fundamentals. Level 2, part 2 is known as internal audit engagement. Part 3, level 3 is internal audit function. These are the 3 levels or 3 parts that we're going to discuss. Is that clear? Understood? So the program include 3 parts. Part 1, internal audit fundamentals. Part 2, internal audit engagement. Part 3, internal audit function. These are the 3 areas. Is that clear? Understood? Yes or no? Students, understood? Clear? Right. Now, as I told you earlier, part 1. That is the first level. How we call this? Internal audit fundamentals. Internal audit fundamentals, basics. internal audit fundamentals. If I take this, 15% of your area covered fraud risk. 15% of your syllabus covered what? Level 1, part 1. 15% of your syllabus covered fraud risk. What is fraud? Why fraud happens? What is the relationship between internal audit and fraud? I'll tell you. Fraud happens because fraud is an intentional mistake. Fraud is an intentional act. People who do fraud in a business, they know it's wrong. They know it's misstatement. They know it's wrong because it is intentional. They know that. And this intentional act can be, right, manipulating financial statements or misappropriation of asset. Manipulating of financial statement or misappropriation of asset. These two things comes under the fraud. But try to understand why fraud happens, why these things are happening. Reason number 1, control weaknesses. Organization control is weakness. Poor culture. Organization don't have the culture of honesty. Organization don't have the culture of good governance. And who responsible or who perform control test, who perform whether fraud happened or not, it's an internal auditor. So as internal auditor, when organization have internal audit function, it is performed or act as fraud deterrent. What is meant by fraud deterrent? When internal auditor is there within the organization, they play a role of watchdogs. You can't do fraud according to your own wish. You know why? Because internal auditors are watchdogs. Fraud deterrent. They make sure controls are effective. Once they make sure controls are effective, it is not easy to do fraud. So that fraud area covered your syllabus 15%. Then 35% of your syllabus covers fundamentals, or else I can say foundations, or else I can say foundation of internal audit. Basics, introduction, what is internal audit, the purpose of internal audit, the arrangements, all these things comes under that 35%. After that, students, 20% of your syllabus covered. 20% of your syllabus covered. Ethics and professionalism. Ethics and professionalism. Because I'll tell you one thing. It's internal auditors, our responsibility to promote ethical behavior within the organization. What is ethics? I'll teach you today. Being ethical is not easy. Selflessness, protecting public interest, promoting ethical behavior. That ethical practice is a self-discipline. It's a part of control. All other internal controls are implemented by whom? Management. So management is implementing internal controls. Ethical practices, personal control. When someone is ethical, when an accountant is ethical, when a manager is ethical, when assistant manager is ethical, when front office person is ethical, when security guard is ethical, all these will make sure organization control environment is strong. How? Because it's a personal control. It's a personal control. So that also comes to the governance. After that, 30% of your syllabus, we're going to cover important area that I told you: governance, risk, risk management and control. Governance, risk management and control. These three are interconnected. Very important area. Right. Total 100%. This is your syllabus scope of part 1. This is your syllabus scope of part 1. Is that clear? Now, is that clear? Nikesh, understood? Yes or no? So your level 1 syllabus covers these 4 portions. These four portions only we going to discuss in detail. We're going to discuss in detail. Is that clear? Is that clear? Any questions? Any questions? Now students, I'll connect these 3 principles, because ethics and professionalism we're going to discuss. Foundations are basics, no problem. Fraud risk is also comparatively easy, but logically you should connect governance, risk and control. I'll tell you the connectivity. Time. See, GRC matter. GRC matter. Why? I'll tell you. The connectivity I'll tell you. C is controls. C is controls. Internal controls. Who responsible to develop internal controls? Governance. Board of directors. Board of directors are responsible to develop internal controls. You can't develop internal controls just like that. There is a proper risk assessment. There is a proper risk assessment. After the risk assessment only, you can develop controls. I'll tell you how it works. Right. Now, concentrate. It's like this. Risk management. I'll tell you how risk management connected to controls and how it's connected to governance. Risk management. First, you should identify risk. You should identify risk. How to identify risk? SWOT analysis, pestle analysis, market analysis. We identify the risk from internal environment. We identify from external environment. No problem. This is called risk identification. Internal environment and external environment. After identifying risk, students, second thing, you should analyze the risk. You should analyze risk. How to analyze the risk? Occurrence, impact. How frequently this risk happen? Once it's happened, what will be the impact? Whether it's a big impact or small. That is we call impact and occurrence matrix. After analyze the risk, what we do is we should respond to the risk. We should respond to risk. Right. What I'm teaching now is just an introduction portion, sir. Right. I'm just explaining what it is. It's not a syllabus. That we can start tomorrow. Now I am just introducing why we need this. So it is not something that you can take it very simple and easy. It's very important. Because nowadays, governance is a big issue. Right. So respond to risk. How to respond? We call TARA. T is you can transfer the risk. A is you can accept the risk. R is you can reduce risk. A is you can avoid risk. How to reduce risk? Internal controls. So when we implement internal controls, your risk get reduced. See, risk and controls get connected here. So you can't implement internal controls for all the area. No, all the risk you can't implement. The risk what you want to reduce, the way is internal controls. And internal controls are developed by whom? Board of directors. Board of directors. This is called governance. This is called governance. That's why governance, risk, controls, all three interconnected. All three interconnected. Is that clear? Now you all understood why your syllabus include risk, controls, and the governance. So, as internal auditor, what is our role here? Make it very simple. We have a role to play here. We have a role to play here. We have a role to play here. That is what we're going to discuss. Therefore, in your syllabus, 30% area covers governance, risk management, and control. Governance, risk management, and control. This is your syllabus, updated syllabus. Updated syllabus. I am telling you, this portion is not difficult. Basic concepts. This portion is very application oriented. Very much application oriented. But this portion is very, very important. All these are covered in your level 1, in your part 1. Now students, see here. I gave in the level 1 or part 1 foundation of internal audit 35%. Under this foundation, what sort of things are included? Right? Purpose of audit. Internal audit responsibilities. It's a function. Requirements of an internal audit charter. And the differences between assurance services and advisory services. I'll teach you this in detail later. What is assurance service and what is advisory services? How it's work out? All these things we need to discuss. Types of assurance services. What sort of assurance? That's why I told you, see the wordings. Assurance, 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 assurance. Assurance means what? Confidence. When you have your father at home, and if your father is healthy, your father is economically strong, your father provides support to you, your father and mother, the relationship is very much smooth, it's an assurance to you. It's an assurance to you. Likewise, for a governance, presence of internal audit function provide different assurance. Confidence. As internal auditing, we do a lot of assurance services. By that, we give confidence to different stakeholders. Internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, we give confidence. That is what we're going to discuss here in detail. It's a major portion of your that 35%. Right? Next one, types of advisory service. Types of advisory services. That is also part of advisory services. Assurance services, advisory service. What is the difference between assurance and advisory? Advisory services are different, assurance services are different. Assurance engagement is different, advisory service is different. I'll teach you later. These two are the main areas of your syllabus. If you look at here, it's an assurance services. If you look at here, it's an advisory services that we're going to discuss. After that, independence. Students, people always say, so internal auditors are internal party. It's a function of a business. Therefore, independence is a major threat for them. But try to understand. By changing governance structure, by bringing corporate governance principle to the governance, you can make sure internal auditors are more independent. Internal auditors are more independent. So independence of internal audit function we should protect. Internal auditors, independence we should protect. When internal auditors are independent, try to understand two things. Here see, internal auditor, that person need to be independent. Internal audit function. Internal audit function is also independent. That should be independent function that we're going to discuss. That is part of your syllabus. Right. And I told you already, just I started, right? Internal audit function and risk management. It's closely connected. It's closely connected. When we have proper internal audit function, we identify the risk need, risk management process, TARA, right? That is also we're going to discuss. All these things, students, which covered in our section A, foundations of internal audit, right? Major principles covered here, but we're going to practice a lot of questions on this area. So our teaching model is not just explaining the theory, right? There are one-to-one question discussion method. Most of the principles we're going to practice more questions and we're going to understand, right? Second section is very much important here. Earlier section is, I can say, what type. Section A is what type, defining perspective or definition perspective. You can learn because it is defined. But this one is why perspective. Second section, ethics and professionalism. It's a case base. Most of the questions which comes under ethics and professionalism, it is not theory. It is not theory. It is related to some kind of an application knowledge. Application, MCQs are application in this syllabus, right? So section B, if you look at ethics and professionalism, we are going to discuss what is integrity. Very much important. What is integrity? We are going to study. Right. Impairment to objectivity. Impairment to objectivity. What is objectivity means? It's very important to protect independence. It's very important to protect independence. I tell you, being objective person is not easy in the world. You know why? Man is a social animal. People can influence you easily. At your home, your mother can influence you. You're not independent. Your father can influence you. So there are a lot of impairments to objectivity. But when it's become a problem, when you at governance and someone else try to influence you for their personal interest and the benefits. That is simply we call threats. That is simply we call threats. As a result of this, third party get affected. Who is the third party? Intended users and stakeholders and principal. That is we call shareholders. That is the major risk. That is the Major risk. It's a very important area we're going to discuss. After that, mitigate options to mitigate impairments. That is, we call, here I can say this as threats. Here I can say safeguards. How to protect ourselves as internal auditor. Internal auditors are facing significant threats to objectivity, because I need to work with the management. I need to identify the loopholes of the management. I need to communicate that to management, and I face risk. How I can protect myself, that is going to be discussed here. After that, competency. What sort of competency skills required to perform internal audit function effectively? That is we going to discuss. Those are comes under ethics part, right? And also duty of care, and also confidentiality. All these are principles that we're going to discuss under ethics. Third part, as I told you, 30% of your syllabus covered governance, risk management, control, interconnected. Huh? We're going to discuss organizational governance. I told you, management, how they govern. And we're going to discuss the culture. Why culture matters? Why culture matters? Concentrate. Culture matters. Culture matters. You know why? Culture is an element of control environment. Culture is an element of control environment. Simple example I'll tell you. In our day-to-day life, we use this culture as a control. If you are a vegetarian, if I ask you to eat non-veg, you won't eat. You won't eat. You know why? Because culture said it is wrong. Your culture said it is wrong, so you won't eat. Understood? At the same time, if I take a person from a Muslim community, if I ask him to eat pork, he won't eat. You know why? Culture prohibited. So what I am telling is, culture is a control environment. Culture is a control environment. But whatever the example I said, it's a personal culture. Internal auditor, we should create corporate culture. Corporate culture is not a personal culture. Don't get confused now. Corporate culture and personal culture is two different things. But that culture, corporate culture, should promote good governance. So culture is a control environment. We're going to discuss that. Is that clear? So best way to do change management within the organization is change through culture. Don't try to do instant changes. Better to do changes through the culture. You won't get criticisms. Culture is a control environment. And also, students, we're going to discuss ethical issues. Ethical and compliance related issues. I'll teach you what is ethics and what is compliance, how it's get connected in detail later. Right? Then we're going to discuss fundamental risk type. Risk is matter. Then we're going to discuss risk management. Already I started. Identify risk, analyze the risk, and respond to risk. Then we're going to take risk management to organization process. Because then only we can implement controls. See the next point. We're going to discuss internal control. Governance we discussed. Risk we discussed. After that, we are implementing the controls. And that control need to be effective and efficient. Control need to be effective and efficient. Very important. What is mean by effective controls? What is mean by effective controls? Effective controls are very simple. Control activity equal to control objective. Make it very simple. See, you all are using mobile phone. In your mobile phone, you all have password. That password is what? Control activity. Password is what? Control activity. Why you put password? Privacy. That privacy is your control objective. Every internal control, it have control objectives. When control activity met control objective, that is called effective control. That is called effective control. When I was a student at university 10 years before, right, my signature in the university is this. Fine. If signature, if you see now, you might tell, sir, it is not effective. No, signature is a control because authorization. If you have put a signature, you authorize certain things. It's a part of authorization. Therefore, signature is a control. So, you might tell, Fareen sir, control is not effective. You can't say control is effective or ineffective by looking at the control. You should compare that control activity with control objective. For example, I might sign like this 10 years before. The reason, in my university, 80% attendance is mandated. So at that time itself, I work in audit firm. So I'm not in a position to attend lectures frequently. So someone else should sign. So my objective is someone else should sign. So it's an effective control. But now if I take my signature, it is something else like this. Now my objective, no one should sign. So this is also effective. This is also effective. So we're going to discuss what is mean by effective controls. What is mean by effective control? Because effective controls will reduce misstatements. Effective controls will reduce inefficiencies. Is that clear? That comes under this. But to identify the controls, you should do a risk assessment. That is comes under section C. The final part is fraud area. The fraud area representing 15%, we are going to discuss fraud risk and types of fraud. Fraud risk and type of fraud. Then, how you going to plan the engagement? For fraud risk, how you going to plan the engagement? And also, how to detect and manage fraud. How to detect and manage fraud. This is your syllabus. This is your syllabus. So, already I explained the concepts, 4 areas. Now I explain what are the things comes under each area. Understood? Understood? So the subdivisions of your syllabus also explained here. Explained here. Is that clear? Any questions? So I hope this material might share with you all, right? Is that clear? The syllabus contents included here in detail. Do you all have any question? Any question? Is there any questions? Right. Now, if you take part 1, part 2, Part 3. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Part 1 has 4 sections. Part 1 have how many sections? 4 sections. 4 sections. That is what we discussed. Fraud, foundation, ethics, governance. Is that clear? 4 sections. Part 2 has 3 sections. 3 sections. Part 3 has 4 sections. Part 3 have 4 sections. Clear? If I take part 1, that is the first level, 125 MCQs, 2.5 hours, and score more than 600. Score more than 600. Clear? Understood? Right. That is basically the CIA introduction. That is basically CIA introduction. Now, I'll compare 2019 and 2025 syllabus of part 1 to explain how this syllabus is changed. The problem here is, students, when you are getting materials from various sources, internet or whatever, make sure the scope is covered or not. Most free sources are old syllabus sources. So old syllabus, if you take, there are 6 areas which covered. I can say 6 sections. But new syllabus, if you take, only 4 sections. What are the 6 sections of earlier one? Again, similar. Foundation of internal audit. Independence. Third one, due professional care. All these things now comes under ethics. Due professional care. Quality assurance. Governance. Risk management. Control. That is there as it is. Fraud risk. These 2 didn't change. Technically, students, these 3 combine together now. New syllabus, foundation of internal audit, ethics, professionalism, governance, risk management, control, fraud risk. This is how it's changed. This is how it's changed. So when you are getting materials or whatever, make sure it is here. Make sure it is here. right? Any questions? Any questions? Do you have any questions now? Students, do you have any questions? So far, what I explained, understood? Is that clear? So far, what I explained, understood? Is that clear? Right. So, I didn't explain too much about part 2 and part 3 now because we'll discuss that later. Right? Now, part 1. So, part 1, ethics matter. One part. Part 1, governance, risk management and control. That matter. Part 1, foundation of internal audit. That matter. Part 1, fraud. This matter. These are the 4 areas that we need to develop. That we need to develop our understanding. Right? So, here, governance, as I said earlier, 30%, foundation 35%, ethics 20%, fraud 15%. This is our scope. So, introduction, I planning to explain these 4 aspects, basics only. Then we can start to discuss these concepts in detail one. Right? Fine. First, what is internal audit? Before moving to this, concentrate, shareholder. This shareholder invested in a business, organization. Let's assume this organization is a PLC. Let's assume this organization is a PLC. What is PLC means? Ownership not equal to control. So ownership is with shareholder, control is with management. That is, we call the governance, right? Now, simply this management, I can say the governance, they are responsible for the control. They are responsible for the process. They are responsible to prepare financial statements. Their responsibility. If you are a management, if you are a part of governance, board of directors, you are responsible to develop controls. You are responsible to develop the process. What is mean by process? It can be a sales process, it can be a purchase process, it can be anything process. Organizations deals with process. We should develop the process. For that process only we can put controls. For example, Arivu, there is a way to do sales. There is a process. For that process, sales process, Arivu's management implemented controls. That controls have control objectives. When control activity met control objective, such controls we call effective controls. When that control objectives are not satisfied, that is control failure, where fraud can take place, where misstatement can take place. So this management is responsible for all these things. Then financial statement, process, controls. Financial statements provided to shareholder at the end, that is we call draft financial statements. Why? Shareholders to take decisions. But I'll tell you, shareholders do not trust management here. Reason? Principal agent conflict. Shareholder is a principal, management is agent. So there is a principal agent conflict. Shareholder do not trust management 100%. There is a confidence problem. There is an assurance problem. There is a assurance problem. Moreover, I'll explain in detail. Management is preparing financial statements. Management bonus is also based on the financial statement. Because when it comes to this management governance, right, we are not paying fixed salary. We are paying a fixed salary plus performance-based bonus. How to measure management performance? Whether management performed well or not, how are we going to decide? Based on financial statements. Now the problem is, who is responsible to prepare financial statement? Management. Their performance is also based on what? Profit, which is a part of financial statement. Then if you are a management person, there is a high chance you can manipulate financial statement. So shareholders do not trust management. Shareholders, they do not trust management. That's why we call this financial statement as draft financial statement. Then shareholders, what they do is they appoint external auditors. They appoint external auditors. That is, we call external auditor. So external auditor, what he do is, this fellow will comes to this client place and take this subject matter and perform audit. And perform external audit. So this is how external audit works. This is how external audit works. So external auditor ensure financial statements, whether it is prepared in line with the standards or not, whether it is providing true and fair view or not, that is external audit verification. But I'll tell you one more thing. When it comes to these process and controls, who going to look at? Can you able to check these process and controls? Yes, a portion is covered by external audit, but it is not a detailed verification. Technically, here only internal audit plays important role. Internal audit plays a significant role here. When it comes to process, when it comes to controls, when it comes to people. Management is not equipment, right? Management is human. Management is humans. So this governance, this control, this process overlooked by internal auditing. So why we need internal audit? In order to ensure operational efficiency while ensure the quality. So when an organization is having internal audit function, that organization's control environment is very strong. That organization's control environment is very strong, solid. You know why? Because watchdogs are there. Internal audit department is what? It's a watchdog. So this is the place where internal audit add value to organization. Understood? Is that clear? That's why your syllabus covers foundation, fraud, ethics and governance. Most of the areas falls here. Is that clear? So technically internal audit is also giving assurance. Internal audit is giving advice. External audit is also giving assurance. By that, organization met their objectives and the goals effective and efficient. Clear? Copy this. Copy this. So this is the point where we need internal audit functions to organization. Please copy this. Copy this. Copy this. Right. Now concentrate. Now concentrate. It's very important. If you copied, let me know. Done? Because internal audit ensure operational efficiency. Again, it's an introduction only. Now, I'm not teaching theory today. I'm not teaching syllabus. Just I'm showing how this paper or the syllabus developed. The basics I'm just explaining. Introduction. From tomorrow, we can discuss things in line with the syllabus. Right. Now, if you take internal audit function, students, if you take internal audit function, it's a function of a business. It's a function of a business similar to HR, marketing, finance. Likewise, it's a function. It's a function of a business. But try to understand scope decided by management or audit committee. Normally, internal auditors' scope, that is managed or decided by management of the committee, audit committee. We'll discuss these things in detail later. Fine. If we are taking organizations, they have two types of internal audit function. There are two ways to perform internal audit function. There are two ways to perform internal audit function. One is internal department. Internal department, where recruit employees to department. We do recruit employees like HR department, marketing department, finance department. We run internal audit department as a functional department. The second way or second type of internal audit that we can see is outsource internal audit function. Outsource internal audit function. What is outsource internal audit function? We provide this internal audit function to a third party organization, mostly audit firms. That's why mostly audit firms. That's why people get confused with external audit and internal audit. Firms provide external audit service, firms provide internal audit services. Sometimes, yes, EY, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, all these organizations, they have separate internal audit function and external audit function. You can outsource. In a company cleaning service, we outsource. HR services we outsource to service organizations. Likewise, internal audit function is also we can outsource to a third party organization, normally audit firms. But scope decided by management. Here also scope decided by management. You got my point. So this is how we see internal audit function is operating around corporates. Either they might have separate audit function or else they outsource that function to audit firms. So these are the two methods or the ways where we can see internal audit function is operating. Copy this. Is that clear? Is that clear? Understood? Copy this. Copy this. Right. So that is the introduction to internal audit. What is internal audit? How it operates, we discuss. Next one. The most common criticism is internal audit function is not independent. So we'll discuss what is independence and how it works. Second introduction point is independence. But now time is 6:50. Let's take a small break. I'll start at 7:5 and I'll discuss the balance introduction portion. What I explained so far, understood? What I explained so far, understood? Is that clear? What I explained so far, understood? Is that clear? So far, the last 1 hour and 20 minutes, what I explained to you related to CIA program, is that clear? Right. Now let's take a break. 7:5, I'll start and I'll explain the balance introduction concepts. Okay, take a break. Right. Okay. Now let's start. Here, see students. In our module, there is a component called independence. See, in the module, there is a component called independence that we need to discuss in detail. Right. So within the ethics, we're going to discuss independence in detail. It's matter. Right. What is mean by independence? Actually, this term independence is going to cover more detail under ethics and professionalism. See, if I take the concept of independence, there is a common argument. Internal auditors are not independent. Or compared to external auditor, internal auditor's independence is less. But it's our duty to make sure the internal audit function is performing independently. Internal audit function is performed independently. We should ensure. Then what is independence? Make sure, very simple. As a function, as a person. Try to understand. As a function, as a person. Internal audit is a function. Internal auditor, chief internal auditor, internal audit trainee is a person. As a function and as a person. Right. Free from appearance and free from mind. Try to understand. Free from appearance and free from mind. That is called independence. That is called independence. Right. It does not mean that management should not involve in the internal audit. It is not like that. It is very simple. Even though management decide the scope of internal audit team, internal auditors have all the rights to perform their duties independently. Internal auditors have all the rights to perform their duties independently. That is called what? Independence. See here, if you take the function of independence, I'll tell you how it works. There are two instances. Internal audit. Right. One is corporate or company complied corporate governance. Corporate governance I'll teach you later. Or that company not complied corporate governance. Okay. Complied corporate governance means it's like this. Board, under board audit committee, under board there is a committee called audit committee. Technically this audit committee is non-executive directors. All these things I'll teach you in detail later. Right. External party, not executive directors, not a part of management. Not a part of management. External party, not executive directors. I'll teach you in detail. Right. And under this audit committee, internal audit function comes. So internal audit function is operating under audit committee. Audit committee will question the board and the executive directors. So comparatively, internal audit function is independent when the corporate is comply with corporate governance code. When the corporate is comply with corporate governance code. Is that clear? Is that clear? But when entity is not complying with corporate governance, possible. Some companies, entity is not complying with corporate governance code. Because corporate governance is not mandatory, principle based. I'll teach you in detail later. Right. When company is not complying with corporate governance code, technically internal audit function, it comes under management. Then, yes, to some extent, independence get impaired. Therefore, we try to make sure internal auditor or internal audit department can do their work, can perform their work without any interferences. Without any interferences. That is very important. At any circumstances, internal audit functions, independent should not impaired. If it is impaired, quality get affected. That is we going to discuss. So that's why under ethics and professionalism, we going to discuss this independence portion. Then ethics and professionalism, that we can discuss in detail later. Right. I'll explain simply what is ethics, because that is also included in your syllabus. It's like this. Always I am telling students, right, what is ethics? You might study this in your college. You might study it even in your school. You might study it in other professional qualifications also. But here, my students, the concept of ethics and professionalism, we need to test in detail. We need to study too deep. I'll explain it like this. See here. It's like this. Concentrate. I'll just explain again. I'll teach these things in detail later. It's like this. Let's take this as legality. Legality means, in the sense, compliance. Legality means, in the sense, compliance. Right. When we are talking about the professionals, can be a chartered accountant, can be a doctor, can be a lawyer, all these professionals, at some point they are beyond legality. At some point they are beyond legality. See, part of their behavior is within legality. Part of their behavior is within legality. Part of their behavior is beyond legality. That's why we call them as professionals rather than calling them as employees. We call them as professionals. Reason why? Their absence or their action or inaction can able to influence third party. See here, I'll give you a small story example to explain this. I am a doctor. I am a consultant. I want to do a surgery for one of my patient. I took my car from home. I am driving my car to hospital. While I am driving my car, I don't have valid driving license. This behavior falls within legality because right is already defined, wrong is already defined. As a person, my right and my wrong is already defined when my behavior falls within legality. When my behavior falls within legality. Now I entered to hospital. Fine. But I did was wrong in the way because it is wrong. That is called within legality area. Within legality area, I don't have independence to decide whether it is right or wrong, because right is also defined. Okay, this is right. Wrong is also defined. Okay, this is wrong. Once I move beyond legality, this part, now I entered into operation theater. I'm going to do a surgery. While I am doing surgery, my purpose is to protect the patient, right? At that time, legality won't put policies to me. Okay, Fareen, you should do this surgery in this way. You should cut this valve first. You should cut this valve second. They can't put like that. At that point, I have independence to take my own decisions to protect that particular patient. So, my behavior at that point beyond legality. At this point, I should decide whether my activity is right or wrong. So while I am doing the surgery, I am getting a call from my wife. Doing a surgery. At that point, my position is beyond legality. I get a call. Should I respond to the call or focus on the surgery? These are the decisions that I need to take. What is right? Protect public interest is right. Protect public interest is right. I should finish the surgery. What is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. What is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. This decision called ethical decision. This decision called ethical decision. So if someone asks what is ethics? Ethical decision is a personal decision. When a particular professional's behavior moves beyond legality, what is right and what is wrong, that is called ethical decision. And what is right? Protect public interest is right. And what is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. What is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. So if you become an internal auditor, if you become an accountant, if you become a professional, ethical behavior matters. Ethical behavior matters. Selflessness is matter. Always I'm telling students, right? Be spiritual. Why? Whatever the religion, no matter. Be spiritual. Why? It's a personal control. It's teach here, public interest. Selfless concept. Selfless concept. That public interest is a part of ethics. That public interest is a part of it. So what is ethics? Protecting public interest is ethics. Now you all understood what is ethics. Is that clear? So when I ask what is ethics, students might say, sir, it's like a principle of right or wrong. Principle of right or wrong is fine. Where the matter? When you move beyond legality, right or wrong decision is yours. When your behavior is within legality, right or wrong decision is not yours. Right or wrong decision is not yours. So we're going to discuss this ethics in two detail. Right? Ethical behavior or ethical decisions are personal decisions based on your culture, based on your religion, based on your education, based on your background, society, customs, rights and wrongs influenced. What is right for me may not right for you. What is right for me may not right for everyone. So it's a personal decision. So ethical decisions are not universally right. Ethical decisions are not universally wrong. Person to person, situation to situation, circumstance to circumstance, right and wrong might vary. Right and wrong might vary. But when something comes within legality, right, universally right. Wrong, universally wrong. So within India, if it is right, right only. When your behavior falls within legality. Without a valid driving license, doctor also can't drive the car, lawyer also can't drive the car, normal person also not able to drive the car, a teacher is also not able to drive the car. Why? Because universally right is right, universally wrong is wrong. It is written and it falls within legality. When something moves beyond legality, personal decision. Then what is right? Public interest is right. What is wrong? Self-interest is wrong. That is called ethical decision. Now I'll tell you one thing. When someone is not following rules, here, can you expect that fellow will take public interest decision when he moves beyond legality? No. That's the reason your ethics and compliance included together in your syllabus. You understood? You should comply this. Then only when you move beyond legality, you will take decisions like this. That's why your syllabus speaks about ethics and compliance together. Fine. So we're going to discuss ethics and compliance together. Is my explanation understood? Is my explanation understood? Is that clear? Well, understood, but basics only. I will teach all these things in detail later again. Is that clear? What I explained about ethics understood? The concept of ethics understood? Any questions? Any questions? Now, this part I'll take it later, the threats. What is threat and what is code of ethics part, that I will teach you later. See, it's like this. It's like this. Concentrate, it's like this. I am an individual. Fareen is an individual. Whether Fareen is an ethical person or not, whether Fareen is an ethical person or not, how are you going to measure? For example, Nikish. Whether Nikish is an Nikish or whatever, right? Ethical person or not. How are you going to measure that you are an ethical person? Simple. Take code of ethics. Take code of ethics. This is the rule. This is the code to measure whether you are an ethical person or not. Whether you are an ethical person or not. Very simple. You should ask these things. Number one, integrity, objectivity, professional competency. I'll teach you these things in detail later. Professional behavior, confidentiality. All these are code of ethics. Apply this to your life and see whether you are an ethical person. What is integrity? Straightforward and honest. Ask yourself whether I am straightforward and honest to my profession. If I am an accountant, am I honest to my profession? If I am a lawyer, am I honest to my profession? Objectivity, free from bias and conflict of interest. We are biased towards gender, we are biased towards territory, we are biased towards race, we are biased towards caste, we are biased towards religion, we are biased towards sex. All these are biasness, and we should free from bias. Then only we are ethical. Professional competence. Are we really accepting things based on the level of competence? If you are not competent enough, you should not accept. If you are not competent enough, we should not accept. But are we doing that? Right or wrong, acceptance and rejection is not based on competency, but based on what? Monetary values. Are we ethical? Professional behavior, it includes following rules and regulation. Are we following rules and regulation? Confidentiality, confidential information matters. Are we protecting confidentiality? So simply I'm telling, the code of ethics is the rule, the code to measure whether I am an ethical person. Now, assume I am an ethical person. Someone else is not ethical. Someone else is not ethical. This is we call threats. Then that fellow become a threat to me. Then that fellow become a threat to me. That is we going to discuss in detail. Is this ethical portion understood? Nikesh, ethical portion understood? Just I introduce the principles. We'll take things in detail. Is that clear? What I just explained understood? What is ethics? What is code of ethics and how it's become a threat? Right. So those are the principles basically I want to discuss about your modules. So again, I'm telling your module covers these 4 perspectives. These 4 perspectives. Right? From tomorrow onwards, I'm going to do sessions for part 1. And my lecture delivery structured in this way. First, theory. Then question, then discussion. You got my point? I'll teach, do question, discuss those questions. This is the approach. This is the approach. After completing out of 4 modules, 4 sections. Once I complete the section, we do mock exam. Then we going to discuss that thing. So this is the program structure. This is the program structure. Okay. Any help or any assistance, you can reach me out directly through the management. You can raise a ticket and they will connect you with me, and one-to-one we can discuss and resolve your doubts. If you didn't understand, you have a right to ask. I will explain from the beginning. Is that clear? Right. Okay, with that point, I'll stop for the day because the orientation and the introduction I covered today. Tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start the theory portion. What I explained to you, understood? Is everything clear? Is the program modules and how it's arranged, how the syllabus changed from old to new, and what is our new syllabus